Hello, and welcome to Pickle TV. I'm your host, Amanda Kalski, Gary's daughter. I'm here visiting family, and Gary's asked me if I would host some episodes of Pickle TV, so here I am. Now, if you found our show on Facebook, YouTube, or any other video sharing site, please check out our website at www.pickle.tv. It's the place to find all the videos that Gary will record from all the conferences he will attend. If you like this show and you like these conferences, please tell your friends about Pickle TV. You may also think about subscribing if you really like it. Now in this episode, I'm bringing you another speaker from the Emerging Tech Conference, which was held in Dallas, Texas, June 2012. If you're not familiar with the Emerging Tech Conference, you should really check out their website at www.etcdallas.com. On this episode, I bring you Rani Monson. Her presentation is Backing Up the Bus. Let's watch it now.
This is not talking about which vehicle that you should be on. This is not about should I be Foursquare, Facebook, blah, blah. This is about, hey, I'm on these things and something isn't going right. So let's maybe start with the title. Oh wait, let's just back up. Please know I do have, this is like PG-13, we might need to change the rating at the end, but so this is not meant to offend, but what we do want to do is make some points here. So, what are we talking about here? A lot of us in this room have probably either thought about, oh my goodness, I've got to be on Pinterest. Or my favorite, hello, I need to be on Pinterest. And it's like, oh, okay, you might want to rethink that. So really, any of these are vehicles, and the idea is not which vehicle that you want to be on, but really what you have to figure out is, what are you going to do when you get there? What are you going to say? Who are you saying it to? And really this is about the content strategy. So throughout the last 2 days, there's been a lot of talk about why we need a content strategy. Right now we're going to talk about how you actually build a content strategy. So first of all, you're like, oh my goodness, what content? He's like way overdone, but he makes such a fabulous point. If you don't know who this is, it might not matter. But this is Charlie Sheen, and he is a good example of someone who maybe doesn't have a content strategy. You could argue that this has worked out well for him. Oh, wow. Hi, Tony. I don't know. You can say it's worked out well for him. Maybe it hasn't. You know, he got replaced by Ashton Kutcher on his TV show. He's now maybe getting another one called Anger Management. Actually, I have no idea why I know these things because I don't even like the dude. But I do get Us Weekly, so maybe that's why. Oh, Wi-Fi, cool. So really, this is a good example of why you need a content strategy. So let's just do a little, you're probably like, who is this chick, blah, blah, blah. I actually did start my career as a newspaper reporter. So I worked at a bunch of newspapers, I have a journalism degree, worked at the Orange County Register, Detroit Free Press, the Dallas Morning News, I worked in Idaho, I lived in Boise, so a bunch of different places. Since then, I've gone on to the corporate side, and I will tell you that it doesn't matter what sort of a bubble I've been through, I have always been able to more or less land on my feet, coming back to content. I have always been able to get jobs there, I've been able to find work there, and it is something that I've relied on again and again and again, because content is critical. Being able to communicate something clearly and concisely, it's what all brands need to be able to do. So that's what we're going to be talking about. This is not meant to be me talking to you because that's really boring. I really would like for you guys to engage and interact, ask questions, and then at the end we're going to run through some examples of wherever people are having challenges with their businesses, and we're all going to help you figure out what is it you need to be talking about and figuring out how to build your content strategy. So, keeping that in mind, building your content strategy. I don't know if you can see what that says, it's a little hard, but there's a chick talking on her cell phone saying, no way, I'm annoying the shit out of everyone on my bus too. This happens, grocery stores, we all go places and encounter this. When you think about your content strategy, the first thing you have to think about are the key messages. And I will tell you, this is typically the hardest thing to do. This might be the one spot where I'll tell you, hey, get some outside help. bounce this off some people. Everything else is going to be about what you can do yourself. But really ask some questions. When we went through some examples yesterday, we looked at some different websites, what worked in terms of SEO, SEM, what didn't work. A bunch of those websites, they didn't know why they existed. We looked at one for a company that did historic preservation. Nowhere did it say historic preservation on the entire website. You need to remember that you've got to answer, what you are, why you're better than the competition, and why clients are referring business to you. And by the way, all of these slides are already posted on SlideShare, so in case anything is of interest, you can download it right this minute. Another key thing here, and this is something that people either just hate the idea of or forget. Whatever your key messages are, you're going to repeat them over and over and over and over again. This is not when you get creative. And I can't tell you, I think it's human nature. We all think, oh gosh, I don't want to say it this way again. You don't want to introduce yourself the same way, blah, blah, blah. This is what you have to do. This is what you have to do to build your brand. And we're going to go into a little bit of the why you need to keep repeating it over and over again, as well as why you need content strategy. This is an interesting sort of visual depiction from a company out of the UK that's showing how much our interest has increased and how much our demand for content has grown literally in 1 year. And it's not so much that the numbers are important. If you're interested, look at the different sources, what's digital, what's not. The idea is that people are becoming more and more open and desirous of content, which is not always what people think. People, now how you deliver it, it might be different. What the message is, how you have to tailor it, that might be something that you have to continue to work on. But the reality is, people want the content. The other reality is, you have to repeat things. When I worked in some of my various corporate communication jobs, one of the biggest challenges I have with executives is, oh, we've already said that. I don't want to say that again. We've already told people this. And I'm like, you've only told people once. That is not enough. Particularly when you're talking about something new, when you're talking about change, when you're talking about benefits, why your product is better than someone else's, why you need to be a part of that consideration set, you have to say it over and over again. And not to be repetitive, but I'm going to be, your key messages, you want to repeat them, and you want to repeat them verbatim. That isn't the time to be creative. Any questions, comments? Feel free to disagree. Okay, we'll keep going, but hopefully someone will say something at some point. Creating the content. This, I think, is actually pretty funny. The guy is interviewing for a job, his resume is a little different, and he can also do it as an interpretive dance or a haiku. I'm not a job coach. I don't know if this is something to do, probably not. But what this is talking about is, hey, there's all different ways that you can get your message across. So one of the first things that everyone needs to do is do a content calendar. I know in the last session there was a question about, okay, what's the best format for this? I'll tell you, one of the best ways to do this is one of those dollar calendars from Walgreens. I personally like the ones with little puppies, but they've got windmills and all these horrific pictures of things. Get something out of that box. You're able to flip it. We all have electronic devices, but sometimes it takes a long time to go through and mark everyone down. You want to visually be able to see everything that's going to be going on. I'm also going to tell you to do it for a rolling 13 months. And I know that sounds pretty horrific. 13 months is like, oh, that's insane. Here's why. If you do not plan 13 months in advance, you will not remember the lessons you learned. Let me give you an example. I'm working with a client. We did some stuff for Father's Day that just did not work. When Father's Day rolls around again next year, do you think we're going to remember? No. But if we go ahead and schedule Father's Day now for a year from now, that means that we're going to be thinking about it. It'll eventually be in our brain again, and we're going to remember when we need to get the messages out, and we can learn from the mistakes we made this time. You also want to go ahead and put things on there like holidays, seasons, and keep this applicable. You know, obviously, if you're in the swimming pool business talking about snow, well, actually, that could be relevant. You know, something that doesn't make sense. You know what that is. But you also know the ones that do make sense. So go ahead and mark those out. You also probably want to think about when you're going to be unavailable. When are you going on vacation? Maybe this is a good way for you to schedule one. Any questions or comments about this? There's obviously a lot of other ways you can do it electronically, but the idea is down and dirty, get it in front of you, something you can look at and something you can plan. Yes, thank you.
When you're trying to plan out your content, when you're trying to plan out your content way in advance.
Oh, it takes a second.
Okay, perfect. Yes, perfect, good. When you're trying to plan out your content way in advance, how do you not outdate yourself by the time you get there?
Okay, so that's, all the questions are great questions. We'll just get that set up front because it's always something offensive. Why wasn't my question great? The question is about, okay, how do you put stuff on the calendar and it's not dated? The idea with the calendar is this really is supposed to be things that are going to happen no matter what. No matter what any of us do, Thanksgiving's probably gonna happen. Does it affect your business or not? These are the type of things that you want to schedule for on the calendar. If you've got industry events or conferences, things like that, that's the kind of stuff that you want to put on the calendar. The other thing is it'll start to help you look at what's the frequency with which you want to be pushing content out. And so we're going to talk about those gaps, how you'll fill it in with different types of content, both sort of evergreen content as well as content that's really timely. Does that help?
Yeah, so you're not saying the types of, or maybe the types of content, but not the specific like titles. Like I'm going to write about this on Thanksgiving of, next year.
Well, if you can though. Okay. So like some of the things that I like writing about, for example, are online shopping trends. So to the extent that people are planning for Thanksgiving online, then I'll be collecting data throughout the year for that. And when people start buying turkeys online, that's the kind of stuff that to me is interesting and it's weird. If there's like, Chiquita Banana just came out with an app this last week, and I think that's weird, and it's like, but let's say there's a banana holiday. Maybe you would plan to write about that then. So there are certain things you can, but yeah, it doesn't mean down to the detail of this is what the title is. It's more, hey, remember Thanksgiving's coming. That's not the best one. Like ones that fall on different days, Father's Day, Mother's Day, and things that impact your business.
Perfect.
Is that okay? Any other questions or suggestions that other people have found to work relative to a calendar? Okay. Evergreen content. The reason I want to tell you what this is and where the name came from is because I think it'll help you remember. It is a journalistic term. We have slow news days, believe it or not. Not every day is like a gruesome murder. I've covered those on Christmas Day. They're not fun. It's much more fun to go find the business that is open on Christmas and see what's going on there. We call those slow news days. So because of that, what ended up happening is this idea of evergreen content. And it really does come from the evergreen tree, the idea that it's always green. And so what you want to do is you want to come up with things for your industry, for your business that you can plan ahead. These will be titles you definitely would write. And you want to have a list of that handy so that you can plug something in. And then on the right, I've tried to put some examples of things that you can do. FAQs are a really good one. They're easy to write, they're quick, they're fast, and you can also keep a running list of that over time. And this is something that you can refresh. Let's say you have 10 new ones, then you can repeat the 10 old ones, and you've got the 10 new ones, so it's 20 FAQs suddenly. Case studies are definitely something because those end up taking something that's over time, and so you'll decide when you're going to want to schedule that, especially if it's going to be around an upcoming event or something where you're going to be showcased. Lessons learned. I think in the last speech, you talked about how, oh, he's looking at his phone. You talked about how you got a better response when you were honest. And I agree with that. People like that. They respond to that. If you tell people, hey, this is what I messed up doing, and I'll tell you, I have so many mistakes. I've been on my own for 2 years now. The mistakes I can tell you that I have done, I'd love to tell anyone these so that they don't do the same things again. Recycle popular content. That can be your content, it can be someone else's. That also goes to the idea of sort of curating the list of content from others. 15 best tips, 7 best tips, 3 best tips, pick a number, whatever number you like. Historical industry information, that's something else that you can plan. So let's say you're in the mobile phone business, you know, or you do something in mobile, okay, when did the mobile phone, when was the first one? Because I think the first one was actually like in the 50s when it came out. And so if you put some of that stuff out there and people are like, oh wow, who knew that? You know, you can get people's attention that way. And also calendar of events. There really aren't that many sites out there that do a good job of putting all the events together. I mean, think about all of us in the room. We probably all go to different events in here, and we don't even know the events everyone else is going to. Questions, comments on evergreen content?
Success stories is also good.
Yes, success stories is a great one, and it's a good way to offset, you know, more of the lessons learned. Yes, excellent point. Tony.
Yeah, Rani, I have a question or a comment. So if you're like a health practitioner, you know, around the holidays, you often see stressful holidays, how to beat the stressful. That would be a good example of something like that.
Excellent example. So those that don't know, Tony actually has a holistic business that he does. So he can obviously write at any time of the year tips for staying healthy during the holidays. We all know that we tend to eat, we drink, we're lazy, you know, we drive all over. All these things are exacerbated over the holidays. So what can you do to prepare in advance? And that's a series that he could do well in advance of any holiday. And it's also something that he could reuse and refresh every holiday season with new tips, ideas, suggestions. Even there's been a lot of advancement in the technology space relative to tools, you know, measuring how many calories you ingested, how many steps you took, things like that. He could even do a list of, you know, practical gifts for people who care about their health. So things like that. It really is fairly endless, as long as you give yourself permission to start being a little creative. Oh yeah, let me also add, this is where you want to be creative. Key messages, be redundant, keep them the same. With all of your content, take a lot of creative latitude. Other questions or comments on evergreen content? Yes?
Could you just give another example of the curated list?
Sure, so the curated list, do you mind saying what business you're in?
Yeah, I'm in a tough one. It's a service business for the elderly.
Okay.
Keep them in home.
Okay, so for something like that, you might think about top 5 things to keep in mind when you are hiring a service provider that's going to go, you know, help someone that's elderly. Something like that could be an example. You could write about, you know, things that you need to know when someone's coming into the home of an elderly. Something like that. A lot of times, because yeah, yours is maybe a little different. A lot of times this might be, you know, 6 top marketing tips, and you might take some of the most popular articles out there. And not to get into the technology that we aren't going to talk about, but you know, then you start getting a lot of link love and things like that by talking about other people, and you're giving other people credit. Does that help make sense?
Is it better to do that from a well-known site like an AARP kind of thing, or?
Yeah, so the question is it better to do it with someone that has what I call legitimacy? I think that that would be great, particularly something like the AARP. And then if you mention something like that, that's a way to get in front of their audience. Oh, and they're just a fascinating nonprofit. If you look at their business models, it's something to be so envious of. They're great, yeah.
To follow up on that question, can you tell us anything about any success stories for, can you tell us, takes a minute. All right.
Hello.
All right, you can hear me. All right, now, can you tell us some success stories for curating a list of content from others where you maybe suggested some to clients or Something along those lines.
Help me
I'm
out.
having trouble with this, like, I'm thinking maybe on the web development side, or even if you're air conditioning, that's seasonal, right? If somebody has an air conditioning company, what they want to write about something on their blog, obviously it's seasonal, is there a list that they could go to? Would they just copy their competitors? Would they look at industry type stuff, or?
So part of it, yeah, so the question is really more about how do you sort of curate this list. Part of it is you do want to be paying attention to your industry. So if I were in the air conditioning business, I think anyone who has a home knows that it can be very expensive and scary when the air conditioning person comes, because it's always like 150 degrees and you're melting and you're afraid they're going to tell you it's $10,000. I think though if you're an air conditioning company, you could be pushing out tips, the top 5 tips to make sure, that your AC unit's in tip-top condition. A lot of times someone's unit is on the ground. They can wash it themselves. They don't need a service to come do it. So, it would be something like that. Some of it's just common sense, and it almost goes back to like FAQs. If you have a customer service department, that's a great source to get information from, because find out what people are asking, find out what people are calling about. That's something great that you can curate. And then for yours in the web development business, it might be, okay, 5 questions that you need to have answered before you engage a web development firm. Something like that. I personally might be a little careful with the competition. Do you want to, but that's such a fine line because a lot of us are small businesses and we all need to work with each other. So that one's a little trickier.
One thing that really is great help, go to the magazine store, go to the bookstore, look at the magazine rack, and just see what they have. Women's magazines, how to get a firm butt.
Did you look at my slides? We're talking about butts in a minute. No, actually, I'm just kidding. Well, anyway, I won't go there. It's true, like there's tons of pop culture references. Let's sort of move on to the next one, which is timely content, which a lot of the media and stuff will fall into. There's some great things in terms of analyst reports that come out. You've got industry news, you can talk about emerging trends, research reports, and literally you can take the different facts that are in these reports and you can be sharing this as content. And a lot of this is really fascinating, interesting stuff. And tons of other media sources already are curating all of this for you. So find a couple that you want to follow and look at what they're talking about. You can then rewrite that content and use it as your own. I would definitely encourage you to source the people who are doing it. Don't try to claim it's your research. Back to the credibility point, it gives you credibility when you're giving other people credit for the work that they did. And that's a great thing to do. Before we move into the be careful with, does it make sense, sort of the things, the data, things like that? Anyone have any examples or questions about that? Okay, I would encourage everyone to be careful around things like current events, politics, religion. There's a number of businesses, especially large companies, that people either will shop at or won't shop at based on the different political action committees they support. There's been some changes in the financing of campaigns and elections, and so now people can give a lot more money than they were able to in the past. What's happened is a lot of it's been anonymous in the past, and now the donors' names and their companies are coming out. And these people didn't think they were ever going to be asked why they were giving $500,000 to fill in the blank campaign. And now they are, and so it's really creating a lot of interest because as voters we want to know. So be really careful when you're going to try to get into that foray because it can backfire, and know that it is going to splinter your business. Flip side of that, there are some people who their whole business is built around one of these things. Pundits and political consultants. Typically they're either working for Republicans or Democrats. Rarely do you see them working for both. There are people who might do websites only for certain religions. So those type of things are the exceptions to this rule. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just speaking of like, I guess what I call in my head like polarizing content. What about stuff that doesn't necessarily touch these topics, but things that are polarizing in general? Like just say, for example, you have a contrary view to the industry.
Yeah.
And you know, how often or should you? Because sometimes you may think, oh, I want to be a revolutionary. I want to be the one who says, okay, everybody's doing it wrong. But then on the other hand, you want to be a grumpy old man. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I totally know. I'd
love to get your opinion on that.
Oh, I don't know if I have a good answer because it's something I personally have a struggle with. Like the whole Chiquita banana thing, like it ruined my morning. I was like, seriously, why do I need a Chiquita banana app? Like, what am I gonna do with it? Am I gonna have a banana chasing me around the grocery store till I buy them? I mean, I couldn't figure out for the life of me, like, where that made sense in any world. But I was like, oh, so do I go on some little rampage about this? And I was then sort of like, okay, well, what's that gonna get me? You know, and so I'll end up, pissing off the banana lovers of the world, the banana growers, the farmers, you know, so you have to be careful. One of the things that I've done is I've separated my personal stuff from my brand and my business. So I can be a little snarky, and if I'm gonna do that, I try to do it on my personal stuff versus on my business stuff. There's definitely people who make a living being a contrarian. I think really you have to go, part of it goes back to your key messages. What do you want to stand for and what do you want to represent? And if that's a part of your brand, go for it. Go for it and embrace it. You know, you don't want to half-ass that. Like that you need to go all the way with. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay. The other thing, like, and this is true, today is swim a lap day. Like there's a holiday for like the inane things. You know, you can go and Google these things. Now again, if you have a pool company, you know, or you're the YMCA, tell people this. Invite them in, do something free. You know, those are the type of things that you can take advantage of and that you can plan for, and you can write the headlines in advance, all of which really should help you reduce your stress and make you feel a lot better about, okay, I gotta do this content thing. Other questions around timely content? Comments? Okay, now we'll get more in going back to the but stuff. Some of the other ideas. Actually, let me start with Batman because at the bottom here, I've got exactly what you're asking about, sharing an alternative view. And something that I'd almost call, you know, truth is stranger than fiction. I mean, if reality TV hasn't taught us this, I don't know what is. But this Batman, so all the stuff I saw on him was all about, oh my goodness, it's Fat Batman. And I look at it, I'm like, Fat Batman. I'm like, dude, Batman went shopping. You know, like, I want to know what is in Batman's bag. So, seriously, I'm being so serious. Like, I'm like, I want to know what Batman bought. And he also has a badge around his neck. I'm like, did Batman go to work like this? You know, where does Batman work? I mean, seriously, that might be like a JOB that I'm interested in. You know, that's where I think you can take, you know, a contrarian, because I don't know that any of those are wrong or not legitimate. It's just everyone else is focused on Fat Batman, and I'm not. Some other ideas, remember that content, it's not just words, it's videos, it's photos. Whatever skill set that you have and you want to build from, do it, use it, engage it, embrace it. Yeah?
You answered your own question about why the Chiquita Banana app with that slide right there. Repeat your message.
Oh, yeah, okay, I agree, yeah. Yeah, no, I agree, you're
That's
right.
totally it right there. It has nothing to do with bananas, it's just repeating the message.
And you're right, and there's going to be some kid who maybe doesn't like banana. Yeah, I still find it annoying, but that's all right. I'm also a hypocrite,
The fact
you
that you
know.
find it annoying is that you got the message.
Yeah, I will say though,
Remembered it.
yeah, I did consume bananas already though.
Yeah.
So I had one today. Potassium, that's K stuff. But yeah, no, I agree. We know why they're doing it. And then, you know, everyone wants to do mobile, everyone wants an app, everyone blah, blah, blah. Different topic, different conversation. So do whatever you like. I don't know where Tony went, but he said talking about magazines and stuff. And I think maybe he just wanted to use the word but it's true. Get magazine subscriptions to things that are maybe not only in your industry, but a little off. I always get ideas from like Glamour magazine, it's horrible. But that do and the don'ts, you know, with the little black thing across, I actually meant to do a slide on that and I forgot. You know, those type of things. Entertainment Weekly, I find is, you know, a really good source. And if you're interested in magazines, here's a recommendation, go to Amazon. They sell all magazine subscriptions on there. And so like Entertainment Weekly is $20 a year, you get 52 issues, but it's a great way to keep up on music and movies and books and all these different things. So you can see what you want to consume, and you can maybe share things that are relevant to your industry, your business, or if you don't like pop culture at all, okay, cool, ignore it. You know, there's lots of other things for you to look at. You know, in terms of books, talk shows. The cover of the New York Times style section today was about a guy who has a new show on MSNBC, you know, and how a rock band in New York City was talking about him, you know, at a band. These are all things that are not necessarily going together, but they make sense in our culture and our world today. Do other people have other ideas to throw out? Because I think this list can be pretty endless. No? Okay. Let me just give you a couple other tips to think about. If you're just getting started, I really would encourage you to schedule deadlines for yourself and really try not to procrastinate. If this is new to you, don't make an added stress for yourself. Schedule a deadline and do it, yeah.
You asked for other ideas. I'll mention that sometimes my clients will ask me a question, and if I feel it's useful to not just them, when I answer it, I've written a blog post about it in the past to help the other people because they probably have the same question.
And that's a great idea. I mean, if you go into any sort of a forum that's been around for any length of time, all the questions get asked over and over and over again. And so you're doing exactly, you're saving yourself time, and you're also letting people help themselves, which most people really like. Relative to this, read your content out loud to yourself, and I'm not kidding. You want to literally sit there and say, today is swim a lap in a pool day. And this means, and literally read it out loud, because what happens is you will find errors in your writing that your eye skips over, but your ear is able to hear. I do this with emails before I send emails. I'll sit there and read it, you know, again to myself out loud to make sure I haven't put any errors in it. Some people are more hung up on stuff, like I don't like misspellings and grammatical errors, things like that. In the online world, dating world, it drives me insane. Like those are the people who I don't want to look at when they don't know the difference between there and there, and they are. But that's not everyone in the world. So, ask someone else to read it. You know, a lot of people know an English teacher or just someone who tends to speak correctly. A lot of times, you know, they're able to write correctly. You know, do that. Someone who has said, hey, let me help you with your business. How can I help? Let them do that. Also, remember, this will get easier. The more you do it, the easier it will get. And if you still think, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? Honestly, like, does anyone know who does this P90X stuff? Look at Facebook. Oh my gosh, they will talk on and on and on about a push-up that they've done, or a pull-up, or, has no one seen this? Oh my gosh, it's the most inane thing. They will post every time they do anything, a sit-up. Go look for this. You've got to Google this. It's the funniest thing in the world. And also remember, it is digital. You can always go back and fix it. You can change it. You can delete it, erase it. Don't stress about it. Do it and get on with it. So, let's brainstorm. Who has an idea or who has some challenges so we can all help you either figure out your key messages or some content that you can plan? Yes?
I'm working with a speed reading website where people will go and learn how to speed reading. Do you have any suggestions on how to, you know, get the, content, message, etc.?
Okay, so speed reading. So the question is, how do we get people in? So I think the first thing would be, what are your key messages? Have you guys developed those?
That anybody who wants to do it can do it, and it's a lot easier than you think.
Okay, so it's a lot easier you think, anyone can do it. One of the questions I have is, why should someone do it?
Well, the main we've been so far targeting the business people.
Uh-huh.
Those business people have a lot lot of information that they have to cover.
Mhm.
And so being able to speed read and be able to give them the ability to read all that information so that way they'll know it a lot faster.
Okay, can you guys all hear what he's saying? Okay, cool. So one of the questions that I still would then have, and obviously you can tell I'm a former reporter, is what about comprehension? Reading fast doesn't mean much if you don't remember it, especially if you're a business person. So those are the kind of things, does that help, that you might want to take into account for some of the key messages? Yeah.
So you've got a lot of good questions. That could be the content, where it might be a misconception, where somebody thinks, hey, you don't understand if you read fast. Well, yes, you do. If you do our method, then you're 80% more likely to remember.
Exactly. These kind of questions, they easily can become your FAQs.
Yeah.
And then you also can talk about the fact that there's more and more content out there. Every day a new book is published. You talk about that. Hey, want to read this in, 1/17 of the time it takes the rest of the world to read it? Yeah.
Just as a side note for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's give him ideas, please. It's not just me.
Well, the only reason I bring this up is because Howie Berg holds the Guinness Book of World Records for speed reading. I can give you his contact number.
Oh, look at this.
Well, that's who I'm working with.
Okay, so you're working with Howie to promote the program. Okay, see, I was going to say you need to be in touch with Howie because he actually would be great at helping you to develop your content.
Yeah.
So go back to Howie and talk to him about it.
And it sounds like maybe she can help. Let's not forget we're all here to network. This is great. Love it. Other ideas for the speed reading that come to mind that people have? Oh, come on, you guys. Be a little creative. Has anyone ever been interested in speed reading? Okay, look. What do you want to ask these people?
Are you guys developing, maybe you can't share this right now because it's a little bit earlier, are y'all kind of hitting this from a different angle? Is it more of a web approach? Are y'all doing things on iPads or iPhones or anything like that?
How are you going to teach people to speed read?
Right.
Okay, well, right now, we have a membership site where people can go to. They can sign up for getting to the site. One of the videos shows you like a 16-minute exercise you can do to help to increase your speed reading. But then also the membership site will show you different techniques, different ways to write your content whenever you're writing your notes to make it easier for you to speed read. And then also maybe different exercises you can do, remind things differently,
So you're getting into some of the product features that you obviously need to, delivery is the question, and then what are the benefits of this? How's this thing work? So I think this is good, and not that we need you to answer all the questions, but good for you to think about. Yeah.
Two things I see, because I'm a visual person, and it seems to me kids would be really good to learn how to speed read for school purposes and getting through college, and you're wanting to go to a younger generation. I see kind of like a cartoon with a character that's running fast, that maybe is just doing normal reading, and then here's speed reading. I also see a graph of how much faster you can read and comprehension and your statistics there with the graph.
What about a speed reading contest?
Okay.
Oh, that
Yeah, go ahead.
Great market for speed reading because over the last few years I've gotten interested in politics, and one of the things that's interesting when you hear about a bill being passed, the problem is, like, say for example like Nancy Pelosi, she wants to pass it before you finished reading it. They're like 2,000 pages, because I've actually attempted to read some of these things, but anyway, from an active citizen perspective, even like when the things that city council passes, it takes up so much time to read that stuff. But anyway, just as far as developing an interest in reading a lot of content, I think some of these just political enthusiasts would be really into it.
And this really, one of the things I didn't get into just in terms of not going too deep, but this really starts to help you define who your different audience segments are. So, engaged citizens, politically active people. We had kids, youth, yeah.
And once you define those segments, then maybe some testimonials would help.
Yeah. Yeah, go
I was
ahead.
going to mention that you guys probably have different programs for how deep you want to get into speed reading. Like maybe there's a quick and dirty speed readers where you'll be twice as fast as you were before in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Or you could be a super ninja in like 16 weeks if you did it every day. So maybe talk about the different levels of time commitment, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't even pick it up because they're like, I don't want to spend my life learning how to read again, but you might be able to do it really easily. So.
And super ninja, come on, think of the visuals with that, that's awesome. That's a good term. Look at this, we're all sitting here brainstorming, helping each other. Seriously, you can get friends together, you can bring out a couple of bottles of wine. Trader Joe's is opening, they have $3 wines and now everyone's competing with this. You know, or you do a good bottle and then you switch to the cheap ones, whatever. You know, get pizza from a local business. You know, you can get people to sit around and mix up the group. Don't do people who already know each other. Let people have a networking event of this, you know, where they're meeting people who might benefit themselves, and they're also helping you. And also, don't let it get too big, you know, like 6 to 8 people. But those type of things work really well. Let's do another example. Yes?
How do you, I've written children's books for Amazon and trying to get those sold. How do you reach that parent market, the ones that are going to be buying those on e-readers?
Okay, so that's getting into a real specific question. It's about children's books and how do you get it specifically to parents and e-readers. So let's do it at a high level. I can tell you my experience with Amazon right now. I have a client that's selling a lot of stuff on Amazon. It is a whole nother system that you really need to learn. And you need to go through the marketplace and you need to understand both the business model as well as how their formulas work in terms of what content's getting promoted where. I know the company I'm working with does products, and based on the amount of products you have with Amazon for fulfillment impacts where you show up in the search list. So there's a lot going on there. Yeah.
There's one thing where you can just sell directly, just screw Amazon and sell it directly to the customer. So one thing you can do is position yourself as the authority talking about the book, the benefits of the book to the mom, create the lead capture page and use something like BlogFrog to spend a couple $1,000s and get the moms to write the reviews on it that will drive traffic to your lead capture page, and then run their email campaigns to build a relationship and sell them on the back end. Yeah. You can go on coaching or whatever else you'd like to go from there.
And I think that's a really good point. I think over time you're going to see that people are getting more and more sensitive about their stuff being sold elsewhere. Either everyone's going to go to it because it's the only way it's going to work because other people can aggregate an audience, but you give up so much financially. So that's definitely going to be an evolution. Let's back up though. So it's children's books. We need a couple of key messages for you. So what's like, my experience with children's books is usually, you know, there's sort of a message or moral that's being taught. What's the essence of the book?
These are mostly adventure books, like friendship and getting into trouble and getting out and helping your friend. And
okay, what age is it targeted at?
They're more chapter books.
Okay, so that's...
So I would say 7 to 9.
Okay, and I know that I've been reading a lot of young adult books, so I know the term chapter books is now a big phrase. So, yeah, you know, that would be something. Who's got some ideas? Who has more experience specifically with children's chapter books that can offer some insight? Yes?
Well, it's not specific to children's chapter books, but rather when you're talking about the themes of your books, what my first thought was as a mom is you're teaching virtues. Mm-hmm. So that's a really important thing to a parent. And if you can highlight that and bring that about, you're instilling virtues and good lessons by reading these books, mm-hmm. then you have something to work with there.
Yeah, and actually, if you go and look at some of the stuff I've done in my career, I worked for the Boy Scouts, and that was a big part of what we did, you know, and that's what's, yeah, virtues, and it's what the uniform has come to represent. So that's a good point. Something else I would wonder is like, what are some of the adventures? Because let's say it's camping, and the kid really likes camping. You know, a mom might pay attention to that. And if you have different things, it's a way to expose kids to new things. Were you going to say something? No? Does anyone else have ideas to contribute to this?
Well, I was thinking when you said something about camping, then you think of all the places around town, you know, that you could, even if it's not going to be a hardback book, you know, you think of anywhere from REI to Bass Pro Shop to, you know, any of the places that are outdoor adventure. And even if you don't have a hardback book, you would say, hey, I got this book and, you know, this is what I do, and, you know, just have a little sample of it right there for them.
What if you gave it away, or
Well,
you did a collaborative?
Yeah.
That's true, they're so expensive to print that.
Well, I think the idea is, can you do an ebook, or can you maybe put in local businesses who'd be happy to help promote it, or maybe pay for it? They're just some ideas, you know.
Or storytelling with the children at a library.
And I think parents like their kids to know, I do not have children, I mean, I don't even have a plant, so maybe ignore me, but, you know, they want the kids to know what's in the area so they can read about it, you know, and learn about it. I think that's a really, and I mean, there's so much in this area people don't even take advantage of. Yeah?
Charity, I mean, if you get on board with the Children's Medical Center or something like that, and you're donating a few of your books there, and you're, you know, being highlighted as a sponsor, contributor to whatever.
The idea of working with a charity, that's a great idea. I actually have a client that's a race car driver, and they do stuff with St. Jude's. I'm not sure I get the connection, but the connection's there, and it helps drive stuff. Yeah, in the back.
Why don't you read it along with a read-along book?
A read-along book. There are so many cool things that's being done with technology and what you can do with books in terms of both augmented reality and image recognition, that books and kids and learning, yeah, it's great. And look at some of the digital learning trends that are going on.
Just to add to what she had said, you know, you could, you know, get a friend of yours that just has a great speaking voice and do a segment of the book that people can listen to.
You can do it on SlideShare for free. You can do it on SlideShare for free.
Yeah, I have a friend that's already done the first 4 hours of reading.
Great. Did you have another idea?
No, what he just said was perfect, because the thing that I'm involved in the project with a former school teacher that's doing, it was a book in brick and mortar sold book for autistic children. But he approached me to create an ebook with music and video supplement to grow his audience.
Yeah.
So I think we can replace it at a conference like this. That's one of the key things you should do.
Okay.
And he does music. He does music, so here's another connection for you.
I'm looking for somebody like you, so.
Good, so you guys can talk. One more, yes.
I was just saying, did you say Children's Medical Center, or did you say, oh, okay, because I said charity, so then it just made me think of connecting with mothers who have kids like in the hospital, or maybe doing and whatever that play area is that they have at the different hospitals on the kids' floor, and featuring your book during that time.
Another great idea, tying it, you know, to charities. Do we want to do one more real quick? Someone else have a challenge they're working on relative to content, messaging, brand? No? Okay, cool. Oh wait, I think, so see, that's real, like someone sleeping in a bus, isn't that odd? So thank you guys very much, I appreciate it. I hope this was helpful. If there's anything you want, all the slides are online and take advantage of them. So thank you, enjoy the rest of the conference.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this week's session. Make sure to come back next week for another video from the Emerging Tech Conference. If you like what Pickle TV is doing, I would ask you to consider dilldomains.com the next time you buy a domain name or website hosting. Dilldomains.com is my daddy's GoDaddy reseller account, plain and simple. So if you like GoDaddy, or if you use GoDaddy, please consider using Dill Domains instead. In other words, buy your GoDaddy stuff from my daddy. Well, that's all for today. So until next week, this is your host, Amanda Kowski, saying goodbye and thanks for watching.